Welcome to another episode of PPL Pod. Today we are taking a deep dive into a really fascinating stack of sources. We've got music criticism, chart data, deep industry analyses.
Lots of good stuff to get through.
Yeah, exactly. And we're using all of this to look at a very specific image that, comes to mind when you think of the K-pop industry.
Right, especially when you're talking about girl group.
Exactly. I mean, if you're listening, you probably picture these perfectly polished, highly manufactured acts.
Right.
Everything from their hairstyles, which are like planned a year in advance.
Oh, at least a year.
Right, down to their outfits, their lyrics. It's all meticulously designed by massive entertainment agencies. And historically, it's designed to appeal to the opposite sex.
Yeah, it's a formula. And I mean, we should be clear. It is a formula that generates literally billions of dollars.
Billion.
It's a highly structured machine. I like to think of the traditional K-pop idol as a bit like an incredibly skilled Formula One driver.
Okay, I like that comparison.
Right. Because they drive the car flawlessly, they hit every mark on the track, but they didn't build the engine. They don't pick the tires.
No.
And they certainly do not choose the racetrack.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because what happens when a group decides they don't just want to drive the car, but they actually want to build it?
Yeah, that's the real question.
Like when they insist on writing and producing their own music, taking control of their own concepts, and ultimately cultivating this fierce, predominantly female fan base, which goes against all industry norms.
It's practically unheard of.
It really is. So today's deep dive is all about the South Korean girl group I-DLE, formerly known as G-IDLE.
Right.
And for you listening, this matters because this group didn't just, survive in a hyper-competitive industry. They fundamentally changed the rules of what a female K-pop idol can even be.
They completely flipped the script.
Yeah. Imagine a Hollywood actor, like someone cast as the sidekick in a standard rom-com, suddenly deciding to write, direct, and produce their own massive action blockbuster against the studio's wishes. And they actually pull it off. That is essentially what this group has done.
That is a fantastic analogy.
Yeah.
And to truly appreciate the magnitude of that achievement, we really have to understand the landscape they were operating in.
Right, the industry itself.
Exactly. In K-pop, the industry is largely dominated by the big four record labels. These are agencies with, frankly, massive financial resources. They have established in-house producers, guaranteed media reach. It's a monopoly.
I-DLE wasn't in that group.
No, they debuted under Cube Entertainment. Now, Cube is a respected label, sure, but it sits outside that big four monopoly.
Right.
So for a group outside those top-tier agencies to achieve this level of unprecedented creative control and, sustained global success, it's incredibly rare. It requires a level of internal driving force that you just do not see every day.
And to understand how they took control of their image, we have to look at how they fought for their identity right from the very beginning.
Right from day one.
Yeah. Looking at our sources, let's just quickly introduce the group as they stand today. We have 5 members: Miyeon, Minnie, Soyeon, Yuki, and Shua.
Though it is important to note, they originally debuted as a sextet, 6 members.
Yes, good point. But the absolute engine of this self-production we're talking about is their leader, main rapper, and producer, Soyeon.
Yes, Soyeon is the core of this.
And her origin story is, honestly, it's gritty.
Gritty is exactly the right word. I mean, before the group even existed, Soyeon was fighting for her place in the industry on these survival reality shows.
Which are brutal.
Oh, they are. And we have to be clear for the listeners about what these shows actually are.
Yeah.
It's not just, singing on a stage once a week.
Oh, I know.
It's being filmed 24/7. You are constantly ranked, graded by judges, and subjected to just intense public scrutiny.
It's a pressure cooker.
Totally. So she represented Cube Entertainment on the first season of a massive show called Produce 101.
And she got really far, right?
She did. She made it to the final episode, but she placed 20th, so she missed the cut to join the winning project group, IOI, which was highly successful.
Oh, man, to get that close.
I know. But instead of retreating, she just immediately threw herself into another crucible, the rap competition show, Unpretty Rap Star,
Where she finished as the second runner-up.
which is just incredible resilience.
Yeah, she proves she has these undeniable rap and writing chops. So she debuts as a soloist, and she is actively composing her own music. And that actually brings us to the very first major hurdle for the group. And it's something I want you, the listener, to really picture.
Oh, this story is wild.
Right. Imagine having to pitch a terrible marketing idea to your boss, but instead of backing down, you twist the bad idea into a genius branding move.
Yeah.
So Soyeon is working on her second solo digital single, this track called Idol Song, and she pitches the name I-DLE to her company for the new girl group.
Which immediately triggered a bit of a corporate crisis.
I can imagine.
Yeah, you see, the name received heavily mixed reactions, both in South Korea and internationally. Because in English, idle means lazy, or like avoiding work.
Which is hardly the brand you want for a highly choreographed, hardworking pop group.
Exactly. And then in Korean, the word adul translates literally to children.
Wait, I need to pause you there. You're telling me that in a hyper-controlled environment like K-pop, a rookie who hadn't even debuted in a group yet pitched the name Lazy or Children for her group, and the executives actually entertained it.
Yeah, they did.
Like, how much power did Soyeon actually have at this point?
It wasn't so much absolute power as it was just sheer undeniable talent.
Yeah.
Hugh Entertainment knew they had a prodigy on their hands.
Right.
But, they were still a corporation. They stepped in and they forced a compromise.
Naturally.
So they added a G in parentheses in front of the name, standing for girl. And the I was recontextualized to stand for individuality, and DLE became the Korean plural marker. So officially, they debuted as G-Idol, signifying a gathering of 6 different distinct personalities.
But verbally, you don't say the G, you just say idol. It's confusing.
What's fascinating here is how the group handled that confusion. Because instead of letting a potentially disastrous, clunky brand name define them, they flipped it into a mission statement.
Right. They owned it.
They took that translation of children and the concept of individuality and basically said, yes, we are a gathering of distinct personalities who refuse to be put in a neat little box.
Yeah.
They own the ambiguity. They became the authors of their own identity.
I love that defiance. It's so cool. But I have to ask, how does a rookie group with a confusing name from a non-Big Four label manage to immediately smash the charts?
Because they really did.
Yeah. Their debut song, Tata, which Soyeon helped write and produce, wasn't just well received. It was a monster hit. It got them their first music show win in just 20 days.
Which is incredibly fast.
And for anyone listening who isn't steeped in K-pop lore, a music show win is a huge deal. South Korea has these weekly live television broadcasts where groups compete against each other. And winning one is based on this really complex algorithm of digital streams, physical album sales, and fan voting. It's the ultimate metric of a hit. So how did they pull that off so fast?
They pulled it off because the music was undeniably authentic and just sonically distinct. In an era where a lot of girl groups were doing very bright bubblegum pop, Tata incorporated moombatten elements.
Moombatten.
Yes, think of it as a fusion of throbbing, bass-heavy house music and the rhythmic beats of reggaeton.
Oh, okay.
It's heavy, it's confident, and it was just completely unlike what their peers were doing. And here is where we really see how Soyeon's self-production is so crucial.
Because she's not just writing the words.
Exactly. She isn't just writing lyrics, she's acting as an audio director. Because she lives and trains with these members, she knows exactly how to utilize them.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, she tailored the vocal distributions perfectly. Like, she would write a delicate, dreamy pre-chorus specifically for Minnie's airy vocal frequency.
Oh, wow.
And then contrast that by dropping into a gritty rap verse for herself, and then utilizing Yuki's surprisingly deep, soulful voice to anchor the choruses.
So they weren't just executing some corporate concept.
No, they were delivering something custom-built for their exact strengths.
Here's where it gets really interesting. That success with Tata proved they had potential. But their appearance on a reality TV competition in 2019 is what transformed them from just successful rookies to undeniable artists. We're talking about the Mnet survival show, Queendom.
Queendom was a brilliant, high-pressure environment. It basically pitted established girl groups against each other in a series of performance challenges over several weeks.
And I-DLE was the youngest group there.
Right, absolute rookies of the roster.
Right.
But instead of being intimidated by groups with years more experience, they just seized the opportunity. The members were heavily involved in conceptualizing their own stages, their outfits, the musical arrangements.
Oh, they went all out. But the real turning point, the moment that our sources say really etched them into K-pop history, was the show's finale.
Yes.
They performed a brand new original song called Lion, and we really have to paint a picture of the stage for the listener.
It was incredibly dramatic.
Picture this. The stage is dead silent. Suddenly, Minnie begins chanting this mesmerizing, hypnotic Thai enchantment. The beat drops and the group steps out, not in typical pop star outfits, but in these rich velvet robes adorned in gold claw marks, made to look like a literal lion's mane.
It was so striking.
And the stage is just swarming with dancers moving like wild beasts, following the group to 6 ornate thrones. It wasn't just a performance, it was sheer theatrical dominance.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, K-pop girl group music, especially at that time, was heavily saturated with themes of young love, heartbreak, or, having a crush on a boy.
Right, very standard stuff.
Lion completely diverged from this. The lyrics literally compare a woman's dignity to an untamed wild beast. They effectively created a fierce feminist anthem on a reality TV stage.
On live television.
Yeah, it completely broke the stereotype of what a female idol's supposed to sing about.
Right. The pop music critic, Choi Ji-sun, is cited in our sources specifically praising Lion as a rare case of a girl group embodying a wild beast, praising how seamlessly they integrated that ferocious message with their stage presence.
And think about the brilliant irony of this situation. You have Queendom, which is a highly structured, competitive, manufactured reality television show.
The exact type of corporate machine that usually controls idols.
Exactly. And yet it inadvertently gave Idol the absolute perfect platform to prove their independent, untamed artistry. They literally used the machine to prove they didn't need the machine.
It was a masterclass. By the end of 2019, because of Queendom and Lion, they were topping brand power rankings. But just as they were solidifying their queendom, sitting on those literal and metaphorical thrones, they faced a crisis that usually destroys groups completely. In 2021, they lost a core member.
Yes. In August of 2021, member Soyeon departed the group following a hiatus. This was due to bullying allegations from former classmates.
Right.
Now, our sources note that these were allegations, and we're looking at this objectively, but the K-pop industry is highly sensitive to public sentiment. And controversies like this have immense structural consequences.
The mechanical nightmare of this alone is just staggering. You have a sextet where all the choreography is built on symmetry, the vocal harmonies are calibrated for 6 specific people, and suddenly you are 5.
Yeah, everything changes.
You have to re-record songs, completely restructure dances, define new center balances, and frankly, figure out how to survive a scandal where the industry is practically writing your obituary.
Most groups would have played it incredibly safe upon returning. They would have released something apologetic, maybe a soft ballad or a very generic pop track, just to gently test the waters, avoid any further scrutiny.
But not I-DLE. In 2022, they returned as a quintet with their first full studio album, and the title was a massive, defiant statement in itself. I Never Die.
And the lead single, Tomboy, backed up that statement with incredible force. It was a pop-punk, rock-infused track with straightforward, unapologetic lyrics. And the commercial response was historic. Tomboy achieved what is known in South Korea as a perfect all-kill.
For the listener, a perfect all-kill, or a PAK, means a song has topped every single major domestic music chart simultaneously. The real-time charts, the daily charts, and the weekly charts. It is the holy grail of K-pop charting.
Precisely. And it sparked a massive TikTok dance craze.
Yeah.
The choreography had this very specific I-DLE sign, where you fold your middle and ring fingers down, extending the thumb, index, and pinky, and you shake your hands crosswise.
Oh yeah, everybody was doing that.
Everyone was doing the Tomboy challenge, racking up over 100 million views.
Yeah.
They proved they weren't dead, they were bigger than ever. But the genius part is that they didn't stop there. Their very next release was Neckite.
Neckite was brilliant. Our sources detail how it was heavily inspired by Marilyn Monroe, utilizing this glamorous vintage Hollywood concept, but it was actually a sharp, biting critique of the public's obsession with this superficial image of female idols. They played on the idea that people wanted to see them nude or exposed, and instead gave them a history lesson on how Monroe was perceived as just a blonde bombshell when she was actually a voracious reader and an intellectual.
It was so smart.
And it secured their second perfect all-kill of the year.
And it made massive international waves, too. Neckite made them the first act from an independent non-Big Four label to debut on the U.S. Billboard Pop Airplay chart with a non-English song.
I want you, the listener, to just put yourself in their shoes for a second. You lose a member, the entire industry writes you off, and your response is to drop a pop-punk anthem screaming that you'll never die, followed by a vintage cabaret critique of the male gaze. So what does this all mean? How did they manage to turn their darkest, most uncertain hour into their absolute biggest commercial triumph?
It comes entirely back to their core identity, autonomy. Because they wrote their own music, they could directly channel their frustration, their defiance, and their maturity into the art in real time.
Instead of waiting for a focus group.
Exactly. If they relied on a corporate songwriter, that writer might have guessed how they felt or tried to manufacture a safe emotion. Soyeon and the members just wrote their actual feelings. The public responded to that raw authenticity. Tomboy and Nexi weren't just catchy songs, they were visceral declarations of survival.
Which brings us to the demographic shift that really cements their legacy. When you look at the listener data from our sources, it completely shatters the industry norm. For their earlier track, oh my God, around 70% of the listeners on the platform Melon were female.
Wow.
And Melon, for context, is basically South Korea's premier music streaming platform, kind of like their equivalent of Spotify.
That is a critical data point. Historically, the girl group business model was built from the ground up to appeal to the male gaze. But I-DLE built their fan base, which they call Neverland, by being bold, complex, and unashamedly themselves. They appealed to a female demographic that saw them not as objects of affection, but as role models, as fiercely independent artists.
And that overwhelming female fan base didn't just give them chart success, it gave them ultimate negotiating power with their corporate bosses as we move into their modern era. From 2024 up to right now, in July 2026, they have just been on an absolute tear.
It's been nonstop.
Yeah. In 2024, they released a track called Fate. Now, Fate was incredible because it achieved a perfect all-kill, which gave them a pack for a fourth consecutive comeback.
Which is a first for any K-pop girl group in history. It proved their longevity wasn't a fluke. And it gave them immense leverage when it came time for contract renewals.
Right, because that's always a tense time.
Oh, absolutely. In K-pop, there is a notorious phenomenon known as the 7-year curse. Standard contracts run for 7 years. And at that mark, groups frequently disband, lose members, or just fade into obscurity as the company diverts resources to newer, younger rookies.
But in late 2024, during a speech at the Melon Music Awards, Soyeon revealed that all 5 members had renewed their contracts with Cube Entertainment.
And you have to understand the mechanics of why that happened. If a company doesn't renew a group that relies on in-house corporate writers, the company keeps the writers and just gives the songs to a new group.
Right, they own the sound.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if Cube lost I-DLE, they wouldn't just lose the performers, they would lose the producers, the creative directors, the writers, the entire engine. I-DLE negotiated from a position of absolute power.
Which explains their monumental move in May 2025. For their 7th anniversary, they officially rebranded. They finally, officially dropped the G from their name to become simply I-DLE.
This raises an important question. What does it mean for an I-DLE group to literally shed the girl label from their name?
It's huge.
It's profoundly symbolic. By dropping the G, they shed the very last vestige of that corporate compromise from their debut, back when they were pitching names. They are no longer defined by their gender, by the male gaze, or by the traditional constraints of being girls in the K-pop industry. They are simply I-DLE, the individuals.
And they celebrated that with their 8th EP, appropriately titled We Are. And that brings us to right now, July 2026. They are currently globetrotting on their massive Syncopation World Tour, and they are about to release their highly anticipated 9th EP this very month, titled We Made.
We made it. It signifies ultimate maturity. It's a declaration of complete ownership over their brand. From fighting for survival on brutal reality television, to writing their own hit songs, to weathering a massive scandal that would have sunk anyone else, they didn't just survive the industry machinery, they dismantled it and built their own.
It is an incredible full-circle moment. They entered an industry that was built on strict molds where they were expected to be traditional idols, or as that early translation of their name went, children.
Right.
But instead, through self-production, fierce independence, and embracing their inner wild beast, they became the masters of their own destiny.
They proved that authenticity, even when it's messy, loud, or rebellious, will always resonate louder than manufactured perfection.
Exactly. Which leaves me with a thought for you to mull over as we wrap up. If a pop group can completely rewrite the rules of a multi-billion-dollar, highly rigid, highly manufactured industry simply by refusing to compromise their authentic voice, what highly rigid rules in your own industry or life are just waiting to be broken? Thanks for listening to Peatball Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.